Hello, I'm Penny Megginson, and welcome to the Megginson Method. Today we're going to talk about reframing. It's an NLP technique, and it's used to change any behavior or bad habit. So it's based on 4 questions. So you can either ask yourself these questions, or you could be using this on a client, for example. And so the first question is, what body part is in charge of this behavior, and will it speak to us or communicate with us in the consciousness? Now this sounds crazy, it's a metaphor, and I'll explain why we're doing this later. And so the question, of course, is what body part is in charge of this behavior, and will it communicate with us in the consciousness? And once the person says yes, usually it's obvious, then we go on to the second question. The second question being, and it's much more important, what is the positive intention of this body part for having this behavior? Now, the reason we have the metaphor is because it creates a sense of disassociation to the problem. So it's like someone saying, oh, I've got this friend who has this problem. It takes the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment away from you. So it's like you can deal with the problem because we're using this metaphor. So now the second question is, what is the reason for having this, or the positive intention for having this behavior? And that's really important. So give yourself time to think about it, or let the client have time to really think about what those positive intentions are for that behavior. No matter what the behavior is, whether it's smoking or whether it's, anger management that we're talking about, there's always a positive intention. So you want to sort of strip back the layers, like stripping back the layers of an onion, to figure out what that core reason is that you're doing that behavior. That body part is creating that behavior. And so once you figure out what that positive intention is, then the third question is, what are 3 alternatives to getting that result that will give you a more positive, balanced way of life? So changing that behavior, what are 3 alternatives that will give you the same result? And so finally, the person has to choose one of those alternatives and figure out how they're going to start to use that in their life. So what we're doing is figuring out what the core reason is for that behavior and what alternative will give them the same benefits. So you're trying to fill that gap, because often if we just say, okay, I'm not going to smoke, or I'm not going to do this behavior, the reason for it is still there. And if you don't replace it with something else that is satisfying, that satisfies that intention, you're eventually going to go back to the old way, because that hole is there and you're going to have to fill it somehow. So this is about figuring out the alternative. So you have those 4 questions, and you can focus on that for yourself, or you can practice with a client. And again, send a question or comment to me if you have any issues with this, if you're finding it's not working for you, or if you just have some comments. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.